invite their spirit into your body. Your job is to approximate it as closely as you realistically can. Hello and happy Wednesday. Today, we are once again talking about how to build a fitness habit, especially if you are somebody who struggles with squeezing movement into your life. Last week, we talked about some tips at building new habits in general, but specifically focusing on fitness. And in that video, I talked about how choosing a form of movement that's fun is key. So today's video is going to focus on that, how to find and stick with a form of movement that feels fun so that you don't have to rely on your willpower, your discipline in order to power through and stick with doing something that you hate. Before we get into that, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Laura, and here on my channel, I talk about all things becoming your favorite self. I really hate the verbiage of best self or highest self because to me that implies that there's some objective version of you that you should be striving towards. And I don't agree with that. I don't find it helpful. So I don't want you to become your best self. I want you to become your favorite self according to your measurements. Without further ado, let's talk about how to find and stick with a form of exercise, a form of movement that feels fun. So, the reason why I wanted to talk about this in its own video is because I think a lot of people, especially people who struggle with moving their bodies on a regular basis, have a really bad relationship with, a bad association with exercise and with working out. So, my first tip for you is going to be to stop using the phrase workout or exercise because I think that those words have a lot of implications, a lot of emotions that may stand in your way of reaching the goals that you want to reach. Personally, the phrase that I like to use is movement. I think that culturally we have less baggage attached to the word movement. My channel used to be called Artful Movement, in part because I just really prefer that term. It's also more encompassing and it helps you think outside of the box, right? When we think of the word, or at least when I think of the word workout or exercise, I think of a gym, a sweaty gym with a bunch of meathead dudes who are dropping weights and making a lot of noise and picking on people, which I will say this stereotype of gyms in my experience have not been true, but that doesn't matter if you are somebody who struggles with moving on a consistent basis. The stereotypes of gyms, if that's what you have in your head, is probably going to stop you from showing up. There's a time and a place for confronting your assumptions about certain spaces and people and demographics, but I don't think that building a new habit is necessarily one of those times. So for now, we're going to move away from the phrase of exercise or working out and into the phrase of movement so that we can think more broadly and get outside of the really narrow scope of exercise equals gym. Okay, so that's number one. Now that we've done this, that still doesn't really help us narrow down where to start. In fact, if anything, I think it can make things a little bit more overwhelming. Because if suddenly exercise includes all of these things that don't happen inside of a gym, there's a lot to choose from. So, where do we start? One place that I always recommend for people to start is to think about the Olympics. So, the reason why I really like the Olympics is because there are so many different sports and movement modalities in the Olympics than what we interact with on a day to day basis. So, in American culture, American football, basketball, baseball, these are all sports that are really popular with Americans and sort of dominate sports media for the most part. And they're what you think of naturally when you think of sports, which is, again, why I like to go to the Olympics because there's so many more options there for you at the Olympics. So, you as a viewer, what Olympic sports do you like to watch? What do you like to watch? What draws you in from a consumer standpoint, from a viewer standpoint? What holds your interest as somebody who knows nothing about the sport other than watching it every 4 years. For me, it's things like gymnastics, diving, rhythmic gymnastics, artistic swimming, even breakdancing this past Olympics. Um, so, and I mean, these are very popular Olympic sports, so that may be true for you as well. In Winter Olympics, it's things like figure skating, ice dancing, curling. I love curling. I've always wanted to try curling, but I have not had the chance to do it. I live in California. There's not a lot of places to do curling that I know of. Maybe you know of ways to do curling. If so, leave me a comment. Now, just because we're starting there doesn't mean that that's where we're going to end. Okay, stay with me. Let's use the example of gymnastics. Okay, let's say you're like me, you're a 33-year-old woman and you want to get into movement for the first time and you love watching gymnastics. But you're like, but Laura, first of all, I'm 33. I can't just start doing backflips. Second of all, even if there are gymnastics schools near me, they don't work with adults. Third of all, maybe there aren't gymnastics schools near me for me to learn how to flip if I am open to doing such a thing. So, if any of these objections are the case for you, what we're going to do is take it every step down. Let's talk about the case where you feel like you're too old, too out of shape, too creaky, and your knees hurt like mine do. And you're like, there's no way I can do gymnastics. Okay, so what can you do? What are the elements of gymnastics? Okay, nobody, if you go to a gymnastics gym, they're not going to have you start with back handsprings. They're not going to have you start with back tucks. They're not going to have you start with doing flips around the bar. Okay, there are so many fundamental movements that you need to master before you can safely move up to those more advanced skills. So, what are those fundamentals? Go to YouTube, search for gymnastics fundamentals. Go to Google, search for gymnastics fundamentals. It's going to be things like handstands and forward rolls and body weight conditioning exercises, kind of calisthenic type exercises. You can go to any of these places, even ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT to write up a gymnastics body weight conditioning regimen for you to do and start there. ChatGPT would be great for this because you can even tell it the equipment that you do and don't have access to, the amount of space that you have to do this this movement regime in, and you can get started with your big gymnastic dreams. If you're starting gymnastics at age 33, it's unlikely you'll get to the Olympic level. And that's okay, though. That doesn't mean that we can't still pretend, all right? I think that there's a lot of value in playing a character for a while you're working on developing a new habit. So if you are the person who loves to watch gymnastics and you want to get into start incorporating gymnastic type movement into your day, you can take a little moment before you go into your workout, your routine, to sort of channel Simone Biles, channel Jordan Childs, channel whatever gymnast that you love to watch, invite their spirit into your body, and then go into your new routine, whatever it looks like. Those are some tips with that. Now, if you are somebody who does have access to a gymnastics gym, for example, it's possible that they might offer adult classes, kind of unlikely, but you could still reach out to them and ask if maybe they offer private lessons. And if they do, they're probably expensive, but maybe you have a friend that you could split the private lesson cost with. Or, maybe you take a private lesson once a month and you ask your coach to write up a conditioning routine for you for the other 3 weeks of the month. There are ways to meet yourself in the middle if you're willing to get creative and not be super perfectionistic about it, which I realize is easier said than done. Now, if you don't have a gymnastics school near you, but you are open to doing more gymnastic type movement, there are also opportunities to buy equipment at home. You can buy mats, you can buy parallettes, which are those like wooden bar things that you see those guys doing front levers on, those like calisthenic guys. You can go to your park, your local park, and use the playground equipment to do like pull-ups and things like that. Point is, if you're not able to do your exact preferred Olympic sport, your job is to approximate it as closely as you realistically can without making a huge financial investment, without making a huge mental and emotional investment. All right. So now what do you do if you don't like the Olympics? What if you're somebody who finds no joy in watching sports at all, even what I consider cool sports like gymnastics and figure skating, sports with sparkles? um, I realize that there are plenty of you out there who are just not interested in sports. My advice for you is to think about the things that you already are interested in and think about ways that you could potentially incorporate more movement. So, if you are somebody who likes video games and that's your main hobby, you and I both know that there are plenty of video game options out there that incorporate movement. Go get yourself a VR headset and start playing Beat Saber. Get yourself a DDR mat. Start playing Pokemon Go again. Like, there are plenty of ways to incorporate your love of video games into movement in your daily life. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because to me that's like the most straightforward one. Let's say that you are a big bookworm. I want you to lean into the escapist part of your brain and sort of like what I was talking about earlier in terms of like donning a character, becoming someone who's not you. Lean into that as somebody who loves books. Pick up a book where the main character is an athlete of some sort or is active in some way and channel that character into your daily life. And you can do this not just with movement, but like with other parts of life. I think that this is one of the fun things about sort of romanticizing your everyday life. Books and media can give us ideas for how to do this. Pretending to be somebody you're not is not the best advice for like a long-term strategy for success, okay? So take this all with a big fat grain of salt, and like I trust you to use your smart nuanced brain to understand that this is a method to get you started. And then once the ball is rolling and you've found something that's fun, then you lean into the fun. But at the same time, maybe you do become that fantasy version of yourself, your favorite version of yourself in the process. But for the short term, pretending to be a character in a book that you like by incorporating the type of movement that that character does or would do can be a way for you bookworms to enjoy it. Another thing, my mom is a big bookworm and she hates exercise, which is what has inspired this video. But she loves readathons. And if you're a big bookworm, I bet you do too. So think about what it is about readathons that you enjoy and see if you can apply that to your new movement habit. Do you like having a theme to follow to help you decide what to read? Can you set a theme for yourself with your movement habit to help decide what movement to do? Do you enjoy having the accountability of people on Twitter or Blue Sky or wherever you are for your readathons? And if so, can you find a community of people online or in real life that can help keep you accountable for your new movement habit? Applying these things that you do for other hobbies that you already enjoy, think about how it is that that works for your brain, and then applying that to the new habit that you want to build is a shortcut that is so overlooked in the self-improvement, personal development, habit building space. So we've talked about what do you do if you're more of a gamer, if you're more of a reader. What if you're more of an artist and you're not into sports, you're not that into reading, you're not into gaming, but you're an artist? My challenge to you is to make your art bigger. Make it bigger, make it more physically demanding, and see where that takes you. Maybe you like to draw. Go get a like big poster board and make a really big drawing so that you have to stand in order to work, so that you have to do big movements, so that you're working with your arms overhead more. If you're a painter, you can experiment with getting a big tarp or canvas or whatever your medium of choice is, and maybe like you use your whole body to make your painting instead of just brushes. If you're an artist, I think you have the capacity to get creative here. I don't need to give you more examples, but you get the idea. Do something that you're already doing and make it bigger and more active, more demanding. Not only will making bigger art help you get more movement into your life by leaning into something that you're already doing, but it'll also help you expand your portfolio and make you a better artist. These are my main tips for finding a form of movement that feels fun, that feels exciting, that pulls you to want to do it instead of you having to push yourself to do it. Something that you can look forward to doing while you're at work instead of dreading doing while you're at work, or doing other things in your day. If this video has been helpful, please let me know by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button if you like me and you want to hang out with me some more. Leave a comment if you feel like there's anything I missed, or if you want me to elaborate on anything further that I've talked about here. Yeah, I'm still super new to YouTube, so I would love to have you hit the subscribe button if you want to hang out with me. And yeah, that's all I got for you today. I'll see you on Sunday for Sunday statistics update. Bye.